Welcome to the Carter Center's Forum on Human Rights. My name is Josh Griffin, and I'll be moderating today's conversation. If you'd like to ask questions to today's guest, you can do so by joining the forum. Please complete the fields on this page to apply for membership, which will allow you to ask questions to today's participants. Today's roundtable will showcase the role of art in demanding change against oppressive political regimes that work to keep minoritized people in an enslaved state. We will explore how place and positionality influence our panelists' artwork. You'll hear how introspection and self-awareness assist artists in advocating for social change. Our roundtable will encourage you, our audience, to seek creative, nonviolent ways to intentionally demand change against oppressive political regimes. Today, joining our conversation, we have Abelis coming from Palestine, Smoked Poets coming from East London, and EVG all the way from the great place of Seattle, Washington, same as me. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead now and let each of our guests introduce themselves. So EVG, if you would like to go first, the floor is yours.
Sure, why not? Hi guys, hi everyone. So I'm Evgenia, Siberian Russian, born and raised. I immigrated to US about 13 years ago to study architecture. I lived and worked in Chicago, New York, and now reside in Seattle. I'm a registered architect, and I'm also a ceramic artist. I run my art practice from home studio. I started with ceramics about 3 years ago, just signing in for clay class in Brooklyn, and it was a way to release my work stress, but then it quickly turned into passion, and I still do it, and I still love it. I also work with stone, carving sculptures out of marble, and I work with felt material, making playful home accessories, so many things. I'm a maker. And in general sense, I also consider myself a thinker, creator, and a storyteller.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And later on, you'll be able to see some of her amazing artwork and hear kind of the backstory behind what influenced the creation of that. Abelis, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
For sure. Hello, thank you for having me. First of all, my name is Isa. I go by the name Abul Ais, and that's my music alias. And also, I go by the name Behki Jazz. That is for the art. Basically, I draw, and I also make animations digitally and on paper as well. I am a literature major. I have some. Basically, I've been making music for the past 10 years, surrounding basically the genre of hip hop. I write and I produce, and it's all in Arabic. That's enough for me as introduction, and I'm glad to be part of this project, and I'm happy to be a speaker here also, and energized for the conversation for sure.
No, that's great. We're happy to have you. And lastly, we have Smoked Poets, who's a Kashmiri street poet and performer from East London. Her main body of work relies upon collective participation with musicians, rappers, animators, visual and video artists using grassroots projects and platforms to amplify working class and immigrant culture and art. Her poetry has been exhibited at the Tate Modern in San Francisco, South Asian Cultural Festival, focusing on dysphoria arts. Smokes Poets' lyrics signify a fight between the contradictions of a hybrid culture and immigrant life in East London. So thank you all for being here today. I'm excited for the conversation. I know our audience is going to get a lot out of today's discussion. I encourage people who are watching, please drop in your questions into the chat, and we'll definitely be able to ask those to our participants. Now we're going to go ahead and watch Smoked Poets and Jerem's video, Kashmir Tears.
Spent wondering if my identity belonged to me. But what's identity on these streets? Sleeping, feeling hungry and empty, waiting for something to fill. My membrane no longer there for you to steal. You don't know my history doesn't know me. So I check my Insta to see Kashmir, but Kashmir is in 2G. Each pixel showing me what I can't see. All I know is heaven on its knees, and I want a piece of it. Cause when the drugs run dry, I can't find peace in it. I know poetry won't ever bring you back to me or change the way people think. Brown bodies lying on the streets, alive, not dead, breathless, never giving up. You said it was all for the dead. You said it was all for the dead. Manifest, no more festering. It's gone to bed and there it sleeps. Nocturnal, fighting its demons, laid in its own blood, nowhere to rest. Who is the best? Who is the best? Agitate, hate and berate. Not feeling myself in this way. Not knowing how self behaves. A circus in my head, the paradox. A box empty. Never full, never dull, never real. Never full, never dull, never real. Living in a kingdom without a throne. It's a joke when you're the slave and they're the throne. Boris is a prick and everyone knows, but you take your pick and drown yourself. Sell your shit and live alone. Never know how it feels to grow old. No mortgage, no loan, no jobs, we got told. The lost generation never holds its own. Every protest I've ever known, every communist I've ever known, every word ever told, every truth, every lie, but to never ever, but to never ever. Carry on.
I spent my life wondering if my identity belongs to me. But what's identity on these streets? You don't know my history. My history doesn't know me. Brown bodies laying on the street, alive, not dead.
Amazing song.
Those are some lines that really stood out to me. So a question for you all. So the video starts off and ends with a slight echoing of Carry On, which is a sample from another song. So when we live in societies that have intentionally built systems to oppress minoritized people and communities, after hearing this video and thinking about your own identity, how do each of you use art to carry on? How about Smoke Poets? Let's go with you first. This is your video.
Yeah, it's her song, so I think it's only fair.
You're muted, by the way. Yeah.
Typical. Hi. It's a weird one to talk about that, because I think I always say this, art speaks for itself, and I kind of talk about identity and the manifestation of that, and therefore what, the contradictions of identity, but then the contradiction of that making you fight the parallels and the existence of your existence. So most of the work that I'm trying to do is obstructing identity rather than indulging in identity, because I think that doesn't help for other people to understand struggle or you. I think that I didn't ever think that I was gonna ever talk about Kashmir explicitly, because I didn't feel like I ever needed to do that until a year or two ago, when I started to talk about sort of the occupation in Kashmir and my relationship with that, in order to support Kashmiris and support the diaspora that has to deal with the agony of that in whatever place that they are. But I think identity has helped me construct an idea and give me an understanding on how to relate to emotions and how to relate to other people who are in similar positions to me, which is displacement, colonization, and a constant fight back against the ruling classes wherever that may be. So yeah, I find I find identity politics is what I'm also talking about in the track. Is something that sometimes you lose when you're working class and you're broke. What's identity then when you're just like other working class people from other areas? That's what East London's taught me, how to fight back as a migrant culture, fighting racism, fighting austerity in Britain. And I think what's important about talking about identity or politics in your music is that it needs to stay prescient. So some of the things I'm talking about in that track, that was a year ago, and those things are much worse now, and those things we're dealing with in a much more reactionary way.
How are they much worse now?
I would say that austerity, inflation, the prices of food, gas, energy bills has gone up massively, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about we're not the generation who's going to be able to get mortgages like our families. We're not the generation that's going to have some of the things that our parents had. We're going to be the generation that's going to have to fight for everything. And I think things are worse now because the Tory government is a lot worse. We have a lot worse policies and bills coming in. Kashmir is a lot worse. You know, if we're going to talk about identity, I can go straight and, talk about where my grandparents are from, which is Afghanistan. Afghanistan is much worse, especially if you look at the humanitarian crisis. It's really hard to say things are much worse because what are we measuring it against? You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So I say much worse because there's been very little progression. I mean, of course, every day people like our police and us, we're fighting every day with everything that we do. But it's really much about how people unite and transform themselves. That is the issue today, I think.
No, absolutely. I really appreciate how, your song talks about last year in the context then, but then how it still even resonates now. And I think hopefully our audience can recognize that and hear that and name that. Art's a really good tool to be able to speak to moments in time and be able to bring people together, to be able to understand what's going on. And so, Abelis, how do you use art to carry on?
So art has been truly a lifesaver. I mean, obviously, for a lot of, not only for me, but a lot of my let's say people in my country. But for me personally, it's been a way I've expressed myself for the longest, and it has been a door to understand myself more, in a sense, because writing is a vital tool to speak out loud to yourself before you speak to anyone else, and to discuss thoughts with yourself before you actually put them out in the world. So art, in a way, in a big way, has led me to a growth of some sort that has led me to who I am right now. So writing specifically has showed me how I think, how I perceive things, how I see everything around me, and how I deal with thoughts. And within time, I mean, with time and with effort and with adding to that is just started developing who I am as an artist, or how I think, and how I use it to carry on is by basically, I think art is everything around us, which could be a vast like sentence, but it is. I mean, art was yani, the purpose of art, as I see it, is to give new ways and to create and to allow for new solutions. And a chair is art at the end of the day, because it was made for a person to relax or to sit but with time, it just becomes a standard. It becomes something we use. It becomes something we expect to be there. So I trust art to be always to be the part that like people find innovation, and where they can like actually stop looking at the standard of things and start looking into what could be if we change our ways, or if we introduce a new way of communication, a new way of a new solution. I think that's what art allows us to do. And I think yeah, in a way, carrying on is linked in a very big manner to creating, because I can simplify things by saying, let me say I wrote let me say I stopped writing for like let's say 2 weeks, let's say a month, and I felt frustrated about the way that I am not creating, or maybe felt like maybe that's it for me. That's what I put out there, what I wrote then is maybe my best. But then maybe a month later, like I would write a verse, and this verse would be in my mind is my best work, or like my best expression of things, or I'm saying something in it that is of importance. Then at that moment I regain confidence. I regain like the will to actually create more, or the will to actually go through this more. And after a lot of frustrations, this feeling starts to dissolve. It starts to go away. Like the feeling of frustration when you don't actually execute how you want to execute, it doesn't matter anymore, because you are in a way very full of confidence
Mhm.
that allows you to create more anyway.
Absolutely.
Doesn't
No, I hear.
so,
Yeah, I hear that. As someone
so
who's also a writer, I appreciate that too. But really being able to, it sounds like being able to give yourself time and space to be able to really, tell the truth and write your truth and get it out there is a very transformative experience. And I think
mhm.
there's something to be said too about then recording that and putting it out there for people to see. EVG real quickly too. I want to ask you is, how does your identity show up and influence your art?
I think I was thinking about that. I think I agree with what Smoked was saying about, in an interesting way that you put it, that abstracting identity versus indulging in identity. It resonates to me as being an immigrant. I left Russia over 13 years ago. I established myself professionally in States, and when I was leaving, it's not like I was running from Russia. I'm very well proud, although shameful at this moment, of my country. But I also do love the world. Like I immigrated because I wanted to. I was not escaping. I was going towards the United States because US for me was sort of the world in miniature, where all the countries are, all the different people are. And I sort of had this dream of just being part of the bigger world and expand my horizon. And so the language that I use in my art when I communicate is trying to sort of be universal and talk to all the people, not just just the Russians or just the Americans. So therefore, the language that I use, and because I'm making physical objects, it's probably a little bit different. My language is the form, is the color, is the emotion, is some associations that we all have when we look at the piece. Another part of the identity, I think, is a woman identity. I'm well aware of the issues that women experience in a man-dominated society, and one of my collections was sort of dedicated in exploring an issue of golden cuffs. I do make vases, so and I sometimes I do special detailing. So like for that collection was detailing of the gold trail that sort of reminds you of handcuffs. And there's also expression golden cuffs as a metaphor, like being in a situation where, for instance, staying in a relationship that you don't want to stay with, but you're so afraid to break the status quo that you still remain in those relationships. Is that like being unhappy, but still afraid to change things. So in a sense, it's a golden cuffs. So that for me was sort of expressing that attitude towards some of the women struggles. And I think in general, like various form of art gives artists different ways to express themselves. I agree with Abelize is that expressing myself is the biggest thing that art helps me to carry on. I think there's also, to me personally, there's a link between I do my art because I love myself, because I know my light, and then that leads to that I matter, my voice matter, and therefore I have to express my voice, and therefore I'm not silent anymore, and I'm actually doing it because I understand that I'm an individual that could change things. Like, I guess my biggest realization on my journey with art is that we kind of have to take a stand and actively do something. The silence is no longer neutral. The silence is actually negative. So
Yeah, I'd agree. Absolutely.
On
Yeah.
that point, I completely agree with her. Like the
Mhm.
silence is not doing anything but slowing us down and keeping us in the same position, keeping us occupied, keeping us controlled by all of the other factors that control us, other than the systems on top of us. There are they branch out into many things, and silence only slows us down. Not creating, not saying, not doing something new about it is just keeping us in the same position. So it's
For
actually
sure.
important to
I would
keep.
ask then how can we use art in its various contexts as a way to be a loud change agent, right? So that it can't be silent, right? How can we use art to eradicate the silence and to demand change, and for all of us to make it our duty to get involved and to not live a passive life, and to not only truly come into the know when certain communities that may look like a majority are being oppressed. How do we get involved, right? How do we more or less remove ourselves from accepting silence by using art?
Can I start?
Of course, please.
Basically, my I'm gonna say in one word. One word. I mean, to put it in one word is just doing. Like just doing, just making.
How do you
Like,
just do?
but
How do you
uh,
have that like belief in yourself to just
this is
do? 'Cause I know a lot of
this
people are
is
afraid.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel you. It comes like Eva said, from basically loving yourself,
Mm,
and no, it's yeah, basically like that's one of the most important things, because it allows you to actually put yourself in a position where you are to reach your maximum potential, and that is the way you can, like, or not max, like, of course we always learn and we always unlearn and we always add and subtract, but allowing yourself to do and do honestly. Honesty is a big important factor of this. If you How art can change if is it's if art is honest, and if it's like if the artist himself is honest to his art, or and then that art itself will be honest to everyone. So like it starts on an individual level of basically loving yourself means that if your family is asking you to be a lawyer and you want to be a, let's say, I want to choose a random job that doesn't seem good to the parents. For instance, like let's say you fix water pipes, and you see yourself as a water pipe fixer, and you love yourself there. You would be, even if you studied law to the max, you would be a better, like, you might be able to actually hook up the waters for this neighborhood, let's say, and maybe that's your purpose. It doesn't matter. It's a good purpose as long as it's honest. uh, and it will allow you to actually solve things that come in your way, because you are putting yourself in a position where it doesn't matter what's about to come. It matters what I'm emitting. And
Absolutely.
if you're emitting confidence, if you're emitting commitment to the thing you are being a part of, then you will deliver, then you will be
Mm.
heard, then you will be you could get, like Eva said also, like, we need to believe that we are individuals that we can change. And that's not because only us can change, it's because you need to the people surrounded by you need to believe that as well. So
Yep.
once they do, as a collective,
Yep.
uh, things will change, things will
Absolutely.
go into
Yeah.
a different path.
Can I
Sure,
jump in
EBT.
just
Of course.
quickly on Abelis? I completely agree. And also, just to extend the topic a little bit, what's so distracting and so just tragic about the wars and oppression, it destroys self-love on the individual level in people. And that destruction of self-love carries not only on this particular witness of what's going on right now, let's say a war, but it carries on through generations. And to unfix or undo that, it takes tremendous amount of individual and collective work. And that's just breaks my heart to understand it on this level. It's just how much damage is all of the wars doing, and how much do we need to do to undo it back? It's just, that's all I need to say.
Nah, agreed. Agreed. I think for me right now, I'm hearing, I think I'm gonna come to you, Smoke, in a minute. But like, my question kind of centered around like, how do we wake up this silence, right? And I think what I'm hearing is through intentional action and believing in ourselves, looking within ourselves, knowing who we are, knowing our purpose, knowing that we can. So in essence, like, we are those change agents that will wake up night, turn it to day, and keep that sun shining on all these issues until things absolutely change. Smoke, I saw you.
Hey, yeah, man. Hearing what Abu Is and Evra are saying, to stay vocal and prescient. I think also, like, these questions are not new. These questions have been asked of artists from the time art began, to change and transform things on the ground. I think even hip hop pioneers, I'll use that as hip hop as an example because of how much responsibility it's taken to change and transform things in communities and across the world. But hip hop pioneers in the UK who I've met over the last few months have turned around and asked me, "Do you believe that hip hop still has the power to change things, to transform things?" You have, beat makers like Madlib going, "Well, actually, he said this a few years ago, but he said, I thought hip hop would be sounding more like Public Enemy." And I think what we're seeing at the moment is waves of music taking that responsibility and talking truth and talking sort of the realities of oppressed people on the ground and producing amazing music. I mean, like hip hop, I feel like at the moment we're fighting to reclaim art and music because of how much capitalism has been able to commodify it, to sell it, take it and sell it back and expect us to engage with that type of art. So the job that people like us have is quite difficult because we're talking about freedom, we're talking about liberation, we're talking about radical change. And to do those things in today's climate within capitalism is massively difficult. To write and engage with what's happening and then sharing that, relaying that is very difficult, and especially because of what happens to artists, how artists are discriminated against, how artists are killed, imprisoned. In Kashmir, art is very underground because you'd get arrested and sent to prison if you tried to talk against the state. Journalism is banned. Similar things in Palestine and other places that are massively occupied and colonized, and are where imperialism is rife. So yeah, I think that engagement in your community, supporting other artists, doing collective work, developing hip hop, which we're seeing in the UK, we're seeing in Palestine, in the Middle East, in Asia, we're seeing masses of development of hip hop and music and political engagement. And I think those things speak for themselves. I think it's a process. I think it's really hard to say yes or no. I think you have to look at the climate. You have to look at what people are doing around you. For me, I think what's important is what young people are doing, what people like Abelise are doing. Those are the kind of people that really build revolutionary spirit and revolutionary change. Those are the kind of people that breathe life into things that have been abandoned. I think if it wasn't for the youth, I would say that actually art doesn't do what its job to transform things. But because I'm seeing so many young people, if you look at, I never thought in a million years that I'd be listening to Scouse drill. And if you listen to Scouse drill in Liverpool, what the young people are saying, they're massively expressive. I mean, they have so much to be expressive about. Like, I think all the artists before us have left such a big culture. I think it would be ashamed if the younger generation were not looking at that and not learning from it. I think we have great teachers, and we have a lot to learn from and a lot to develop. That's really up to us how we develop that and how we engage in our communities, how we engage with young people, and how we support them.
Mic drop. That was a lot of truth there. A lot of great information that you spoke to. And I think too, for me, just living in the States and not really being fully aware of what's going on in, occupied Palestine and in East London, it's great for me to be able to sit here and to hear about, what is happening on the grassroots level, because that's how change happens, right? At least here in the States, like, we're very much stuck in different things. I'll leave it at that. But it's beautiful to see young people coming together and galvanizing themselves to push back and to resist and be intentional. Now I want to go ahead and shift to EVG and have her kind of tell us about her Cuff Color series and the inspiration for it. And I think we have some pictures too that we're going to be able to look at.
Okay, great. So my latest collection, which is called Cuffs Color, I did it a few months ago, actually, before the whole war invasion situation started. And it was exploration of this cuffs design that I mentioned previously. I made it in various porcelain colors, like I used blues, yellows, and pinks, and blacks, and I make all the pieces by hand, and they're full of good energy and good vibes. And originally color choices were inspired by, just nature, golden sunsets. Were inspired by my roots, which is the blue domes with golden crosses of the Orthodox churches. It was inspired by black marble stones that I love. And so at the time when the invasion began, I was already on my Instagram page, I was already sort of halfway through introducing collection. And typically I take, beautiful photos, and then I post them. And in my kind of posting, I do some sort of story about the pieces. And so the war began. It was huge shock, and it was paralyzing, because it's like, I went silent for a few days. But then I thought that I cannot just keep posting things like nothing happens. Although I'm just a ceramic artist, right? I'm making the vases. What do I have to do with this? But anyway, at that point, it's like, well, I have to just express and put and sort of express my feelings about it, because I was clearly overwhelmed, like a lot of Russians, and obviously a lot of Ukrainians, and all over the world. And so I started to use my art and presentation of my art to talk about war and talk about my feelings about that. So when I showed black vases, it was reminding me of the wrecked metal, of the burning tanks and weaponry and destruction in Ukrainian cities. When I talked about the yellow vase, it was for me a symbol of hope, and hope that the killing would stop very soon, and hope that innocent people just stop dying, and hope that this madness just ends. And then the blue vases then sort of showed me, or at least the way I talk about it, is evolution from the cuffs into opening up of the cuffs into liberation. I actually have both vases with me right here. I could show you guys what I'm talking about, because probably must be confusing. So let's say this one, right? This design is a cuff. That's what I was. Do you see it? Yes. So I have a gold here, like a chain, and gold opening for here, so you could have very nice flower arrangements. So this is a chain, and this is cuffs. And the evolution of that design is that the cuffs actually open. There's a cut, so that there is no cuffs anymore. So that, to me, sort of this evolution of design within the series is just a hope that liberation comes soon. And when I say liberation, I mean it for both Ukrainians who fight for their existence and for Russian nation who is so deeply oppressed right now under dictatorship. So my heart sort of bleeds for both. Yeah.
Thank you for that explanation. I think it's beautiful to be able to know the backstory behind that, and the meaning of it. I think not enough people take the time to really understand or look deeper into like sculpture, into like the nuance and the colors, and then if it's closed or if it's open. So I'm really appreciative of that. Yeah, Smoker, I believe, do you have any thoughts from seeing that the artwork? Someone, I think you're muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I don't know anything about sculpture, to be honest. So that was quite cool to sit back and listen to that. Yeah, that was quite interesting. Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't. I know how to express myself in some ways, but that is a very difficult way of expressing yourself, but also very powerful. Abu Is is better at answering these kind of stuff, because he does. He does that. You do that, man.
I like the second piece. The second piece where the cuffs have gone away.
They opened up.
I think that's very expressive, and I like them. I would like to have one. With some roses in. And also, it's also cool that you're putting. I mean, these are artworks you put flowers in, so that's also that adds to the essence of the idea as well. So I think it's really cool, honestly. And,
yeah, it's kind of just showing that the beauty comes through the cuffs, and it's a way beauty. I think, to me, I get so much energy just from the beauty, smell of the flowers. Like, really, I'm serious, about that. And I think there's so much energy in the nature, and the fact that that energy comes through cuffs and then liberates it, to me, symbolically, is just quite very powerful. But a big piece, he writes, Smoked, it's like, how do I speak my truth in a physical form? Like, that's interesting. So I'm trying to do as best I can, but yeah,
if I could chime in, I think that all three of you express yourself in the physical form, in a non-verbal form, right? I think that's EPG through your artwork and how you go about in creating that. I think that it's the language that speaks to hearts, and same with Smoke and your words, same with Abelis. It's that, like, it's getting back to, I think, living your truth is like, that's how I would say or name how you all do an extraordinary job of expressing yourself in a physical form, is just by living it, by being it, by embracing it, either consciously or subconsciously. I think it's just beautiful how you all just create art that really speaks the truth, and challenges the current context, right? Obviously, there's a war going on in Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and it's horrible to see people dying. But at the same time, the occupation of Palestine has been going on for 70 years, and that doesn't get as much, attention on the news. And same with what's going on in Kashmir and also in Yemen. So it's cool to see how people from throughout the world and from different cultures and from various contexts can use art to be able to speak to their truth and to be able to, hopefully inspire change on an individual level, for people to know that they can get involved. And once you're involved, then you're duty bound, in my opinion, to continue to fight for social justice every day of your life. Enough of me talking. I want to get to Abelis and his music video that he was going to share with us. It's beautiful. Saw a little bit of a sneak peek of it, so I encourage you all to sit back and relax and take it in.
لو ما كتبتش فيه كل مرة كان صدقنا بس ما صدقتش واحنا في ورطة كيفنا نأمن وانت بفصنا لحسن ننفس فيش وقت والله بلا هالقعدة بلا هالبشرة أنا هالبعدة بدنا نعنش بلا هالمفرق ولا كان ضفلة ماني تصديق خالي مالي وزيك سالي بالي بمشي سالي بحالتي يا دوب سالي بحالتي بحكي عادي عادي يا شريك عادي عادي يا شريك
تعخو يفتش مش تتفشش فيش هنفتش في ناس فتش انا مش فتش انا انسان امرض بسرب مرة بنسى كنسر بذكر الا ده بنسى على عفو بقدر انا كبرت ومن الشهر نلدغش مرتان عند البحر بكلكش مواج بس في خطر انا بفزع خال شد ظهرك فيه واركن بيت حلال عن جب مش مثلين قلت الحق هذا الصح ولو حردين هيك القصة عادر بينا لو وين رحنا او كيف جينا شو اللي مش عاجبك انه بشوفك او بتشوفك ام بعيوني ايش هالعلقة معي ورطة ومثلك شوف جنوني شلي مشتاق الابيض اسود انا هجلوني خايفة اكون من بدري كلك كوني بترفعيله الاصبع ترفعي له الوسطى مستحيل النوطة للطويل الخطة مستقيل بس نوطة
شي جراح في دوري كتبت نصلي معك وراي في كابتن طارت ومت ان شاء الله حق مش طالب شي اذا بقارب استقبل قلب الخير على نفسي بعمل مقارب يا بعمل الطابة مكعب عم بشوفش تحت استهتر بطاقتي بموت من طابعي البحر ماني تسليك راديكالي بلاستيك خالي مالي وهزيك ساني بالي بمشي ساني بحالتي يا دوب ساني بحالتي بحكيش عادي عادي يا شريك عادي عادي يا شريك
كاني مالي بسليك راديكالي بلاستيك خالي مالي وهزيك
ساني بالي بمشي
لساني بحالتي يا دوب لساني بحالتي بحكيش عادي عادي يا شريك عادي عادي يا شريك كاني مالي تسليك
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Could you walk our audience through like the context of this video? When was it? Was it during COVID? Was it after COVID? Where was this video shot? Yeah, and just the process of it.
Of course. This video was shot. First of all, shout out to my friend Mu'taz Tamimi. He helped actually actualize this video by shooting it and helping directing it. We made it together. and we're proud of it, honestly, because it was a step up. I mean, you can see it's shot by a phone. It's still not like I'm not like it's yeah. We use what we can and what we have. That's one of my.
Honestly, I had no idea it was a phone, to be honest. Yeah, I did not know that.
It's
Yeah,
shot
no,
by an iPhone,
it's
but
great.
like
Yeah, it's a
but
great
like
job.
basically I myself allow myself to do these things even if they look like, let's say, unprofessional, because it's a term used a lot, but like this song was at like the end of 2020, and it was there was a mixtape I've been working on in 2020, during 2020. At random times I finished random tracks which I released each at the same day of it, like the same day of finishing the track. And at the end, I was in my mind, I was seeing that they're developing some kind of process. In a way, they're showing how I managed to do what I do, how I managed to write, how I managed to shoot videos, how I managed to discuss these issues that are surrounding me. The mixtape itself is called The Process, and it speaks a lot about doubt and a lot about like moving on from doubt, and letting it go in order to actually create, to actually actualize what's in the mind, or what's there to deliver as a message. This song specifically, in the chorus, I'm speaking about honesty, because كاني ماني تسليك راديكالي بلاستيك. كاني ماني تسليك is a sentence that says they say whatever. Like I'm talking about someone who says whatever. Like he doesn't keep his promises, let's say. And radicali plastic is a plastic radicali. So he's actually not doing enough, or like not, he's doing but not in the right manner. So I'm saying forget me, like miss me with that, and I don't want to be surrounded by that. So I actually also say, how are we gonna thrive with this energy between us? So like let go of this despair and move
Yeah.
on. We need to be happy. We need to be
For sure. Where is this in this video? Like, can
this
you
this
tell
is
us where
actually
it's at?
something I missed. This is actually something also I missed in my introduction.
No
I am
worries.
from Jerusalem, from Sheikh Jarrah, and the whole this song was shot in Sheikh Jarrah. I collaborated with Bint Halal. She's located in London, so actually part of the video is in London as well. But Sheikh Jarrah, it was important for me in 2020 to actually show where I live more. It's a process every artist goes through. Like you want to actually showcase the place you're living in, and if you came up like you're talking to them directly before anyone else. So it was important for me in that year, because it was a time of COVID, and I wasn't seeing a lot of friends, because I am part of a collective that's called Salib Wahad in Ramallah, and they cannot actually visit me all the time without permits because of the ID.
What's that process
situation.
like with the permits and going through all that?
So basically, in Palestine, you have Palestinians are like some have the Israeli passport. Everyone who's not born in Jerusalem and Al Julan have an Israeli passport by default, and everyone who's born in Jerusalem, they have something called a blue ID that lets them around all of the country except for Gaza, and they get a laissez-passer, which is a travel document, and you get a temporary Jordanian passport, which allows you to travel. But these are also not that good as documents, because they don't really allow you to travel without visas. But on the other case, people who live in the West Bank, like Ramallah, like Nablus, like Hebron, they have a green ID, which doesn't allow them in the occupied lands of Palestine, inside where they call Israel. So basically, they have to get permits, which are really hard, usually are given to extreme cases, like you have to go to the hospital, you have to You have to they also use a lot of the like working hand, let's say construction. So Israel uses a lot of the Palestinian working hand, and they allow them to inside so they can work. So you get work permits, hospital permits, or visiting permits, like in months of Ramadan where you are allowed. They allow they not they allow they give a, a bit of easing to get a permit, but the permit in general is a hard thing to get, and a lot of people also cannot get it because of issues like being arrested, like being a part of any kind of felony they think, if or not a felony, just any part of like a protest could lead you to not getting a permit to visit Jerusalem, for instance. So that led, and that's something maybe is I can go also into like the separation of our like people inside of the country, and outside of it, but like inside of the country itself is big on a level that يعني, we're very separated. So let me get back to my point, and maybe we can discuss that later.
Yeah, we have 9 minutes, so like give you
I'm
two
sorry.
more minutes.
So maybe in the next discussion we can go through that.
Exactly.
Thoroughly.
There we go. There we go.
Exactly. But the thing is, I was in a place when I started working on the process mixtape. I was in a place where I'm very stuck in this place and at my house, where I do not really see all of my artists, creative friends around me, where I am not surrounded by this energy. So I had to. So I was frustrated. I was in a place where I'm just very down and feeling like I need to create, and I'm not having this energy. So I convinced myself to actually work on this project, and the way I could have realized it on my own was to actually allow for mistakes, allow mistakes to be actually there. It doesn't matter. As long as I am delivering a message that's important, a message of creation, a message of doing instead of holding back, regardless of what tools you have, regardless of like how high you can execute the things you have in your mind. So it was this track, Kani Mani specifically, was the track I had in mind to actually jump from this standard of being in a process, jump from the standard of being in a demo, which a lot of my tracks before had that, of course, too. But I'm speaking about this specific project. At the end of the year, I wanted to release this track where I actually show my hometown more, and I actually go through showing that we are jumping in standards, that we are, because I did that, I am able to do this. So, and also in the track, I can, there is 2 lines I can mention that actually talk about this. And I said بعمل من الطابة مكعب بعمل من القارب يخت أعمى بشوفش تحت, which means I can make a yacht from the boat, and I can make a cube from the from the ball, and I am blind because I don't see under me. I don't see below. I only see up, and I see forward. So it was important for me to actually like, what's the word, confirm the need to actually move on, and to actually not look at obstacles as obstacles, but look at obstacles as something you can use to actually يعني create something else with them, to actually use them to your advantage, not to bring you down. And I think that's enough on that. But I also want to ask you guys something, if you allow me, in these 9 minutes, when we have the time.
We got 6 minutes. So
that's perfect. I don't want to speak all of the 6 minutes, so I'm gonna shut up now. But I have something at the end. I have a verse in English that may or may not have these thoughts. It's something I recently wrote, and I'm proud of it. I don't know. I'll wait for you guys to finish, and then maybe I can say it if you want, or maybe I can say it now. It depends.
Feel free to say the verse. Yeah, we can get reactions.
I'll say the verse.
Let's hear it.
I'll say the verse. So you guys can understand me as well, because I'm speaking in Arabic most of the time. So I understand it's actually hard. And there's also a line that has been stuck in my brain that I've been telling at every show, and it's part of a song. to push our people to actually believe is the line was in Arabic صوتنا أعلى من قنابل الصوت, which means our voice in Arabic stun grenades are called voice grenades. So صوتنا أعلى من قنابل الصوت means our voice is louder than voice grenades.
I like
basically.
that.
So this is a sentence that resonates in all of my music, whether I am speaking politically or I'm not, because it also adds to the idea of you need to carry on, you need to love yourself, you need to create in order to move, you need to free yourself from all of these complications that you think you are seeing, because they are not complications. It's just how life is, and you need to actually move past that, and you need to move past the idea that you are not enough to do, because you are. And that's it. And basically, yeah, the verse. I will say the verse now.
Yeah, let's hear the verse, and then we're gonna get reactions.
If you want, we can put it on screen. I can send it to you, and so you can
Just,
guys.
if you can say it, it's better because of time. Yeah,
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So basically, the verse says, "If I'm stressing, I'm stressed. If I'm stressing, I'm stressed. I'm addressing the mess. So I'm dressing what's left. Drum hitting the nerve. If I'm messing with death, some lesson I learned. Dumb thinking I'm deaf. I speak volumes with text. My name is my name. I'm done. I finished with grace. I talked rhythm in chest. Fuck isms and tests. Duck bullets and lies. They don't see us outside. I'm stuck. I visit myself. I'm dressed. I rest. It's best. I limit myself for a sec from the rest to protect my minute. I am in it. There's no time. It's infinite. There's no limit. But oh, I need to take a break when I ache. It's okay if there's no cake. I do this just to say. Do just by saying. You must complain. Too much, too late. You must, you sane. Few runs, use brain. My health comes first like men do, baby. I kept youth merged with my mental lately. And forever to be honest with you, because it's the honest visual. That's why I'm an artist, maybe.
That's beautiful. I like it. Great job.
Boss. Big up the team.
Good job. So we got 3 minutes. We got 3 minutes left.
Oh my
I just want to allow each of you the time to be able to say how our audience can best support you, and then additionally, if you could just a few little words on how people can get involved in the fight for social justice. So how people can get involved for the fight for social justice, and then how audience can best support you. Smoke Poets, let's go with you first.
Oh my God. How do people support my art? This is it. I'm the worst person to ask questions like this because I have.
I would say, well, one way you can support Smoke Poets is that's your Instagram handle. So you can go there, follow. I know you have events coming up soon. I saw Kareem post that. So events coming up soon in East London, I believe. I'll be your hype person.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, also on SoundCloud, YouTube. Smoke Poets, great way. What advice do you have for people to get involved in social justice, fighting for it?
Advice, that's again a tough one. I think you will always, capitalism doesn't benefit any of us, especially those who are listening today. So whatever you find that's aggravating you, let that be something that you learn from and resist against.
Absolutely.
Art is not the only way you can engage with politics. Art is a part. It's a part of it. It's a pivotal part of it. But there's so much other things to do, and I think people find people who are conscious, people who do want change, people who are serious about change, will find their place in this. In resistance, they'll find their place. That's how I see it.
EVG, it's to you now.
Okay, support my art. I have a website. EVG.works. I have a shop, but you could also just stay in touch in Instagram and join my art loving community. And for the question of involve,
get involved.
I think is I'll keep it sort of general, but I think to me it's the gist of it. Love yourself because you matter. And find your light. And once you find that light, just keep shining.
I like that. All great responses thus far. Iblis, that's all you. Let's hear.
I think you just need to be fair to yourself, so you can be fair to your people and to your surroundings and to everything. Being fair, like we said, it just sums up everything we said. Just really loving yourself, having the confidence to actually actualize what you think of, and be courageous enough to actually go through these things that you think you're not enough for. So that's the way we move on, and I think we can see a free Palestine if we all and a free
Free
Kashmir and
Palestine!
we can see a free Palestine and a free
So I
Kashmir
can meet you. So I
of
can
course.
finally meet
Yeah.
him.
So we can finally
Some
gather, but
point,
like,
definitely.
so,
So I want to
in
go ahead and
order,
wrap it all up, and I want to thank you three for joining us today and just dropping knowledge and insight into how you use your art to fight against oppressive political regimes. I hope our audience learned a lot. I know I learned a lot, and I think the most important thing that I can say to you all is please find a way to get involved. Through love yourself, you have a light that can emit darkness and eradicate that. Please do not be silent. Too many of us are. Speak up, get involved. You're duty bound. Thank you for your time. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Just thank you all for being here.
amazing.